got here, Aaron said before that he kind of saw the writing on the wall for his time here. How was he behind closed doors with you for those 3 years?
Yeah, no, Aaron was great. I think anytime just being in the quarterback room, you want to have a great relationship with everybody in the room. I think just to, make it a fun environment for what you're going to be in every day. So, I think coming into it, obviously I never knew what to expect, but, I think Aaron was great to me all 3 years, and I think really everybody that was in that quarterback room with us in my time, has been great. We've had no issues. It's been just a great room to be a part of.
Did you wonder coming in, like, how's this going to go? I mean, the legend's in place here, your first round pick. Did you wonder how it might go?
Yeah, you never know how it's going to go. Obviously I, didn't know what to expect coming into it. Obviously, being a first round pick, having A-Rod there, there's a lot of question marks. So you never know how that's going to be. But I think obviously getting here, just being around A-Rod, being in the quarterback room, those guys welcome me in with open arms, and we're great. And I think that's what kind of just helps build those relationships, keep those relationships. But yeah, coming into it, you never know what to expect.
Jordan, when's the last time you communicated with him?
No, we texted a couple weeks ago.
You did?
Yeah.
What do you guys? You regularly text? If so, what do you talk about?
Yeah, we shoot each other texts every now and then. A lot of it is just, saying good luck throughout the season. A-Rod texted me and was, talking about some of the plays we've been running and some of my footwork, things like that, complimenting me. So, obviously it's great to be able to hear from him. I got so much respect for him, and, anytime, he gives me pointers, things like that, that's the stuff you want to get feedback from a legend like that. So we got a great relationship. Obviously, I'm excited to be able to see him Sunday, go against him.
Jordan, you're a competitor. Aaron's definitely a competitor as well. What do you think this opportunity means to both of you?
I think at the end of the day, I think it's another game. I think obviously going into this week, it's going to be one of those, very talked about matchups. Obviously, just from my time with A-Rod and his time with the Packers. So it's something that's going to be, hyped up. But at the end of the day, it's another game. I'm going against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. He's going against Green Bay Packers defense. So, we're not going against each other head on head really. But it's going to be, obviously, it's going to be a fun game. Like you said, we're both competitors. We both want to come out with this win. So, I'm just excited to see him.
He taught you well with that. We're not going against each other directly. He used to use that all the time.
Did he?
Did he ever tell you how it was the first year with Favre? Did you guys ever talk about that? Because it doesn't seem like he ever treated you the way he got treated.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that I've heard stories about. Obviously his time coming into the league as a same kind of situation, getting drafted here as a rookie with a quarterback that's already been here. So I've heard a lot of stories, but it's one of those things where I wasn't in the room. Who knows how it was. But you have heard Aaron talk about he wanted my relationship with him and my kind of experience in the quarterback room to be different from what he had. So I think I got a lot of respect for how he handled it, the way he went about me coming in, and like I said before, he welcomed me with open arms. He helped me out a ton in the quarterback room. I learned so much from watching him, and then also just hearing him talk in the meeting room. So like I said, he was nothing but great to me.
Jordan, is there any particular area of his game that you kind of picked up on from those 3 years, or anything you kind of incorporated, into your own arsenal, when you finally did move into that spot?
Oh man, there's so much stuff that I took from A-Rod. I think anytime you sit back and just watch a guy for 3 years who plays the position at the highest level, you're going to take a lot of things. But you look at just a lot of aspects. Footwork, obviously cadence. Seeing the consistency, the way he threw the ball. The touch and the way he would, kind of create the holes. It might be a tight window, and he's going to find a way to fit the ball in there. Just everything that he did, and just the way he played at a high level. But I always say the most important thing was just the consistency. Day in and day out, seeing this guy practice, make these crazy throws, and then it all translates to the game. So just consistency day in and day out. But there was so much stuff that I learned from watching him.
Have you managed to come across the film of him much this year as you're scouting other defenses, or made a chance just to look at what he's been doing this year?
Yeah, no, I definitely, I'm a ball guy, so I've been watching. Anytime I can get to watch him on Sundays or whatever day they're playing, or like you said, anytime we're breaking down the team's defense and they played against them, I'm gonna watch it. I think there's a lot of carryover stuff that he runs over there. But I just love, I love watching him play. Obviously it's a guy that I came into the league 3 years, watched him day in and day out. So, I got a ton of respect for his game, the way he plays, and I just love watching him.
Did you see him get tackled by his own offensive line?
I did see that, yeah.
What did you think of that?
It's just one of those things. It's crazy, obviously you see his reaction. But I think that's the last thing on his mind was after he threw a touchdown to get tackled by his own guy. But it was funny to watch.
Aaron's the best that there's ever been when it comes to taking care of the football. That's something that you've seen to really grow from your college days to now. How much did that influence kind of early in your career, kind of have a part of you growing in that area?
Yeah, no, that's a huge part. Like you said, I think my first 2 years coming into it, I don't even know his stats off the top of my head, but his 2 back-to-back MVP years were crazy. Seeing a guy throw for that many touchdowns and that few interceptions, but I think there's so many lessons you learn as a young quarterback watching him, just the way he's able to take care of the ball, and I think it obviously translates to winning games. And I think that's what we did in those couple of years. But like you said, just the decision making, being smart. Like I said, that's what he did every day. He didn't throw a lot of picks in practice, and it would all translate to the games. But I think that's just the experience he has, understanding defenses, understanding where he needs to go with the ball, and not making bad choices with it. So that was definitely something that was cool to see.
So he left here MVP. Everyone knew he was going to someday be a future Hall of Famer. What was your locker room the first year after he was gone?
Say it again.
How did him leaving Green Bay change you guys as a team?
Yeah, he left, and I was taking over the role of starting quarterback. So, obviously, I think there's going to be an impact anytime your quarterback leaves. A quarterback who's been here for a long time is leaving, and there's going to be kind of that transition from him leaving to me taking over. So, it was a little bit different. Obviously, we talk about for me in that kind of leadership role, something I had to build up and kind of grow into. But yeah, it's just like anything. Anytime you have guys leaving. You're losing obviously friends, but really good teammates. So there's going to be a little bit of a transition period. But I think everybody accepted me very well. Obviously I was here for 3 years, so it's not like I haven't been around. But I think guys embraced me taking over that starting role.
Jordan, you mentioned you're still in touch with him. Is there any piece of advice he's given you since he left here that's kind of stuck out to you at all?
That's a good one. Nothing really jumps off top of my mind on that one, but we've had a lot of conversations. We've done I've seen him in the off season. We've done a couple of things together. So, I think anytime just being around him is cool. But I don't think nothing really sticks out to me right now.
You want to swap jerseys with him after the game?
I do. I would love to swap jerseys, but who knows? I know they're breaking those throwback jerseys out. So we'll see. I know. I like to hold on to mine, so we'll see what he wants to do. But I need one for sure.
Jordan, with his cadence, that's something I feel like you studied and learned working with him. He still appears to be using that at the highest of levels. Your defense has had sometimes they've given up free plays. And is there anything that you can tell them this week to help them not do that against him from getting so close to him over the years?
Yeah, no, I think that's one thing that he's mastered over his career is the use of the cadence and trying to draw free plays and things like that. And it's one of those things that Malik and Clayton are going to be trying to replicate all week of trying to do a good job trying to get the defense to jump off sides. But that's something that you get in the game, you just got to be dialed in and locked in and try not go for some of that stuff as a D line. So it's something that they'll be working all week and be studying, but it's definitely got to be a focus going against him.
Hey, can I ask you one non-Rodgers question? On 4th and 2, when did you realize they were disguising and they actually were in man? And what do you think then? Is it like, oh my God, or what goes through your head?
Yeah, no. So they kind of had the 3 safety defense they're kind of doing, trying to keep 42 as guard and tuck, but he tried to he was disguising man coverage from depth. And by the time I went to cam the play and had motion, they started coming down, and I knew we were getting man coverage. But the play we ended up running was still a good play versus man. Obviously, it's not. We had kind of a man beater on, but I still like what we had, and it just comes down to winning those one-on-one matchups. So we're just going to let it eat.
So it was before the ball was snapped you realized?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Jordan, how did you, from a thought process standpoint, navigate those 3 years? Did you ask as many questions as you could? Did you kind of try to stay to your lane, stay out of his way, and kind of do your how did you navigate that?
Yeah, it was definitely something where coming in right away. You know, I was real quiet in the quarterback room. You know, I was trying to just sit back and watch him, you know, and I didn't want to be that guy that's sitting here asking a million questions and when he's trying to get ready for, you know, a game, and that's probably the last thing he's thinking about. So, you know, I try to stay in my lane, like you said, but at the same time, I think A-Rod was great in trying to find ways to incorporate me in the room and to give me little pointers on things that he was doing. And then I think as the years went on, the relationship got better. You know, I kept, you know, trying to ask him more and more questions and pick his brain on things. But it's definitely something that, you know, I had to, you know, work my way up into, you know, talking more in the room.
When was the turning point when you felt more comfortable talking more? Do you remember what it was?
I don't think there was really a turning point. I think, you know, after year one, being in there, kind of seeing how it went, I think throughout the course of the year, I kind of got more comfortable in there, just talking, asking questions. But, you know, I think by year two, year three, we were, you know, on the same page, and I was asking a lot of questions. And but I think early on, definitely was A-Rod trying to give as much feedback on some of those things.
When you look at the Steelers defense, does it start with TJ Watt? And how much do you have to be aware of him when you're snapping?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think any defense, when they got a superstar edge rusher like that on the D-line, you know, you got to have a focus on where he is at all times and, you know, what he's doing. So it starts with them. I think they got a really good D-line as well. I think they're really disruptive and I think they do a really good job of, you know, getting batted balls down, getting tips and things like that. So, you know, they're coached really well, and then it just comes down to understanding what they're in. Are they in the zone? Are they in man? And trying to find ways to beat that.
We all asked you what can be learned from Aaron's game. Is there anything about his game that just can't be learned? Like you got in here like, yeah, that's him. Like, don't even try that.
Oh, I mean, I think you look at some of the throws he makes. Obviously, you know, I think the biggest thing that jumps out to you is his footwork. You know, I think A-Rod's one of those guys who can make any throw, you know, feet, wherever. You know, I think the biggest thing you learn as a quarterback is you're always trying to get your feet going towards the target, be on balance, and you know, I think he's one of those guys that breaks all the rules. But at the same time, I think for me, it was cool to see some of that stuff. You know, I think you know, you're taught your whole life how to play the quarterback position a certain way, and you see a guy kind of break some of those rules and make some of these passes, and you're like, man, I want to try some of that stuff. And obviously, you know, some of it is just him, you know, being a freak, you know, being able to do stuff other people can't. Very talented, but I think in the back of your head, it makes you be like, man, I want to try some of this stuff. So, but I think the footwork and just kind of the off-platform throws he makes is pretty cool.
Where does extensions fall in that line? Like for quarterbacks, play extension, he has a supernatural ability, obviously, to extend plays. Is that something that is kind of to him individualistic, or is that something that can be learned, the extension stuff?
No, I think extension is all just having a feel for the game, having a feel for the pocket, when you can extend plays, you know, when you got a free hitter and you got to get the ball in your hands now. So I think that's all a field thing. And I think the longer you play in the league, obviously he's played a very long time. I think he's probably got better and better throughout the years. But, you know, like you said, I think that's a mindset. You know, I think he trains it. Throughout our time, he trained it during practice with the receivers and the running backs and tight ends on understanding where to go and scramble drills and things like that. So guys are on the same page.
You mentioned you watched a lot of games. Were you watching the Bengals Thursday night game live when you were? What did you think when he had that go-ahead touchdown? He had some mobility, bought some time, threw a dart, went ahead. What were you thinking watching a former teammate do that at his age?
Man, it was cool. You know, obviously that was it was a pretty cool game. They were going back and forth a little bit, and it's one of those plays where he answered the call. They're down, and you know, like you said, I think he moved around in the pocket a little bit and, you know, extended that play and was able to throw a seed. It was pretty, I mean, I don't know, it was probably like 30, 40 yards down the field to the tight end, and, you know, he was able to finish it off. But it was cool. You know, I was obviously happy for him, but it's one of those games that's just going back and forth. You don't know who's going to win and who's going to make that final play.
What were you most proud of Sunday night? The fact that you guys were the last ones to score and to go up, or that your defense could get off the field on fourth down?
Both. You know, I think being in that position, going for it on fourth down and finding a way to keep that drive alive and go score a touchdown instead of kicking points was huge. You know, I think we talked about it after the game. Like, anytime you get down towards the goal line, we can hand the ball to Josh Jacobs. I think we're all confident we're going to be able to punch that in. And then obviously, you know, we're left with, you know, I think there's a minute, some change left on the clock. So it's like, all right, you know, the defense got to come out here and get a stop because, you know, they're going to drive down, obviously they got to get a touchdown to win it. So, you know, I was definitely proud of the defense to be able to come up with a stop and obviously force the Hail Mary. And, you know, I think anytime you come away with a win in that situation, you're going to be happy.
So after Aaron left, were there things that you tried and Coach Clemens would be like, hey, that was Aaron's thing, like you don't have any business doing that? I mean, like, you know what I'm asking. Like,
No, for sure. I think that was the cool part of being the backup for 3 years is I would see him do this stuff in games, in practice, and then I would get the opportunity to, kind of do some of that stuff on scout team where it's, obviously a little bit less risky. You're just trying things. So that was my time, and I think, obviously Tom and Matt, they gave me some of that freedom to go out there and try things in scout team that, because, we always say you're not going to do it in the game if you don't try it in practice first. So, doing some of the no-look passes and, trying different things was definitely what I tried in practice. And then, I think as you get to the games, it's a whole different story of, I never really got that, don't do this. But early on, definitely, with some of the protections and things that the checks A-Rod was making to the line, it was one of those things where they were like, don't even focus on this, just try and play the play out, throw hot if you got to, and don't try and, be overthinking with some of this stuff. And A-Rod obviously was at a different level, so it's something I got to build up into. But it was cool to be able to watch him do some things, and it just gave me perspective on how to play the position and how to, be able to handle a lot of different things.
It's tough for quarterbacks breaking into this league under any circumstances, and now 3 years in, you've made this team your own, now you're a captain. But how difficult was it replacing him?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. I think just coming into an organization who, they've had a lot of success at the quarterback position and understanding, who you're taking over for. A-Rod had, done a lot of really good things, won a lot of MVPs, won a Super Bowl. So definitely a lot of success he's had here. It's going to be definitely a tough transition, but I think the main thing for me was trying to block all that out and just understand that for me, this is a great opportunity. It's something that I've been waiting for 3 years, being behind him, watching him. So, I knew in the back of my head I was ready, and how best can I go out there and try and block all that, extra noise out and just play my game and make my own name here.